Biceps are a two-headed structure that originate at the shoulder and insert into the forearm below the elbow. Now, the basic exercise for the bicep is a curl, which is a one-jointed isolation movement that goes from the elbow. The basic function of the bicep, though, is to curl the forearm up to the shoulder, and that's going to oppose the strength of the tricep. Although they also help to lift the whole arm and to also supinate the forearm. This type of curl hits the muscles slightly different, but they all involve pulling the forearm up to the shoulder.
The biceps brachii is a two-headed muscle placed on the anterior aspect of the upper arm that flexes the arm, flexes the forearm, and supinates the hand. The long head draws the humerus, the upper arm bone, upward, strengthening the shoulder joint.
In biceps training, the emphasis is on control and isolation. Heavy weights aren't needed. Your back training gives you plenty of that. For example, heavy rowing, a two-joint movement, also puts a lot of demand on the biceps. You're better off concentrating on isolating the biceps to minimize the involvement of other muscles. Avoid the heavy cheat type of movements. You'll find that some exercises are tougher than others to isolate the biceps. Standing barbell curls, for instance, must involve the front delts, traps, and lower back. Just keep concentrating on your biceps isolation as much as you can. It's easier with such exercises as the preacher curl. It's ideal for biceps isolation, as are many kinds of cable and machine curls.
Bodybuilders tend to drastically overtrain their arms. Both biceps and triceps are such small muscles, and as we said, they are subject to a lot of stress when you train your back, your chest, and your shoulders. So you don't need to do endless sets and reps during your arm workouts. I mean, 12 sets each for biceps and triceps is plenty. And I know a lot of bodybuilders who prefer doing less.
This is a good place to talk about supination. Any bodybuilder will tell you that to fully peak the biceps when you hit a pose, you need to twist the wrist or supinate it as far as possible. This applies to training as well. As you are lifting the weight during a dumbbell curl, twist the wrist slightly, turn your thumb outward as you do the curl.
Barbell curls are the closest thing to a mass builder you'll find in biceps training. However, since this is still a one-joint isolation exercise, you don't want to pile on too much poundage. Working too heavy means you have to cheat too much, and you end up building your traps and lower back rather than isolating your biceps. To do barbell curls effectively, keep your upper body steady throughout the movement and the weight under full control. Feel a steady, continuous tension as you raise and lower the weight. When you curl the weight to the top, feel the biceps fully contract, and at the bottom, let your biceps muscles fully stretch and extend. As with any isolation movement, the key to success is control and concentration. Think about what the muscles are doing and how they feel rather than what's happening to the weight.
The biomechanics for the curl, for instance, you want to always go through the full range of motion. Some athletes have a tendency to do these short, jerky kind of ranges. Well, there aren't many things that you do in just this motion. You want to build strength throughout that range of motion and be in control of the resistance throughout the range of motion. You don't want to throw the weight up because, again, what goes up must come down, and then you deal with inertial forces of gravity, acceleration, as well as the weight itself. You want to control that weight.
Alternate dumbbell curls allow you to isolate and work each biceps muscle individually. As you curl with one arm and then with the other, concentrate on supinating your wrists as you lift. That is, turning your hand so that the thumb goes outward and downward. This gives you a total peak contraction of the biceps at the top of the movement. You can do dumbbell curls by alternating first one arm and then the other, which is a very strict form of the movement. Or you can curl both arms simultaneously. For additional strictness, try doing dumbbell curls sitting on an inclined bench. However, no matter what variation you choose, remember to concentrate on controlling the weight at all times, performing a smooth, continuous movement, and keeping the mind in the muscle. Think about what the biceps are doing rather than the weight. Dumbbell curls, especially when you supinate the wrist during the exercise, are designed to give you the maximum peak possible in the biceps. Hammer curls, on the other hand, because you pronate your wrist about 90 degrees when you do the movement, tend to focus the effort on the outer head of the biceps on the outside of the arm. You can feel this happening when you do the lift. In fact, with hammer curls and all other exercises, you should make an effort to feel exactly how different grips and different variations change the way your muscles feel during the movement. This awareness of what the muscles are doing, the ability to keep your mind totally in the muscle, is one of the keys to developing maximum intensity in bodybuilding training.
Some athletes are so interested in the size and definition of their bicep, they'll do many sets of curls over and over and over again. And sometimes the bicep can start to spasm because this person has done so many sets for just one body part. So it's important to not only go through the full range of motion while you're training that body part, but at the termination of your curl or bicep motions, to go through a range of motion with an easy stretch.
Concentration curls, as the name implies, involve the most concentration and isolation of the biceps exercises. The idea is to curl the weight up towards your chest, using only the biceps with no help from any other muscles. Some bodybuilders like doing concentration curls with their arms hanging free. But many others prefer grounding themselves more fully by leaning their elbow against the inside of the thigh, making it even easier to totally isolate the biceps muscles. Preacher curls are another good isolation exercise for the biceps. By keeping the elbows firmly in place on the bench, you can ensure that only the biceps are doing the work in the movement. However, anytime you lock the elbows in place like this, you're putting more stress on them. So use preacher curls as a detail peaking exercise, and be sure not to use so much weight that you risk putting too much stress on the elbow joint. When you do preacher curls, you can use a barbell, an easy curl bar, or you can further isolate each biceps muscle by doing preacher dumbbell curls, one arm at a time. You'll find a variety of different curl machines in most well-equipped gyms. These machines allow you to do curls against smooth, continuous resistance and frequently feature some kind of cam-created variable resistance. As with other machines like these, they are best used for higher rep, lower resistance, finishing off sets. With machine curls, you shouldn't expect to build a great deal of mass and strength. So instead, go for full range of motion, very strict, detail and quality movements. Cables allow you to do a great variety of different kinds of curl movements. You can perform one-arm cable curls as demonstrated here, or you can use a bar instead of a handle and do the cable equivalent of standing barbell curls. By combining a preacher bench with different kinds of handles, you can do various kinds of preacher curls and one-arm preacher curls. Remember in all cases that a curl is a curl is a curl. No matter what kind of equipment you're using, free weights, cables, machines, it's what you do with the muscle that counts. Feel the biceps extend to full extension, then contract smoothly under control to achieve a total peak contraction.
One thing to remember when you're training biceps is they get a large volume of work when you're training other compound movements like back, and it's getting a tremendous amount of work. That's why it's so important to isolate the bicep and not cheat and not end up using your traps and shoulders and pecs when you're training your biceps by themselves. You have to learn to isolate and concentrate on the muscle group you're training.